The rain had already soaked through Emma Carter's thin jacket, but she didn't move. She never moved on this day. Not for 5 years. Every November 14th, she visited the grave she believed she owed her life to. "Thank you," she whispered, placing the lilies gently on the polished stone. "I'm still here. Because of you." The cemetery was empty, as always. People didn't visit graves during rainstorms. People didn't kneel for hours in the mud. But Emma wasn't people. Emma was a widow who owed everything to a woman she never met. The stranger who had saved her husband's life years ago. Her voice trembled. "Caleb, I wish you could have met her. The woman who pushed you out of the way that night." The drunk driver hit her instead. Her tears mixed with the rain. "I'm alive because of her. And I'm here because I need her to know I never forgot." She brushed her fingers over the engraved name. Maya Lee Harrison. Beloved wife, daughter, friend. Emma didn't know anything else. She didn't know Maya's family. Didn't know what burden her death carried. Didn't know what storm crashed into another family the night her husband survived. She only knew gratitude. Gratitude and guilt. Emma stood to leave. Legs numb, heart heavy, clothes ruined by rain. But as she turned, she froze. A man stood behind her. Tall, broad shoulders, a black suit drenched in rain, yet he didn't seem to feel it. His expression shattered her breath. Grief etched in every line of his face. And his eyes were the kind that held entire storms inside them. For a terrifying second, Emma wondered if she'd done something wrong, if she'd trespassed on someone's private pain. Then he spoke. His voice was deep, controlled, but trembling. "You've been coming here for years." Emma's heart stopped. He stepped closer, rain running down the sharp edges of his jaw. "You always bring lilies." A beat, a breath. Those were Maya's favorite. Emma swallowed hard. "You knew her." A painful silence hung between them. Then the man whispered, voice breaking, "She was my wife." Emma felt the world tilt beneath her feet. And then he said the words that would change everything. "Please don't leave. I've been waiting to talk to you." Emma couldn't breathe. The man stepped closer. Not threatening, not angry, just broken. A man held together by sheer will, like grief had carved him out and left the structure behind.
"I'm sorry," Emma whispered.
I didn't know anyone else visited." He let out a painful, almost bitter breath. "I don't. Not anymore." Why? How could Maya's own husband stay away? As if answering the question in her eyes, he continued, "I couldn't come here. Not without feeling like the ground would swallow me." His jaw clenched. "But then, I kept hearing about you." Emma blinked. "Me?" He nodded slowly, rain dripping from his eyelashes. Every year, the groundskeeper mentioned a widow. A young woman who visited Maya's grave even when I couldn't force myself to. His voice lowered, raw. I had to know why. Emma didn't know whether to run or collapse. This man, who looked like he carried empires on his shoulders, was staring at her as if she held a piece of his soul. "I'm Emma Carter," she finally said. "My husband, Caleb, survived a crash 5 years ago." Maya pushed him out of the way. Emma's voice trembled. "He lived because she didn't." The man closed his eyes as if the words physically struck him. "I'm so sorry," Emma whispered. He shook his head sharply. "Don't apologize." She was the kind of person who would have done exactly that.
"No hesitación."
Emma clutched her arms around herself. "I always thought someone should know how much she meant to us. To me." The man looked at her with an expression that made Emma's chest ache. "I'm Adrian Harrison," he said quietly. The name hit her like cold wind. The Adrian Harrison, CEO of Harrison Global. Philanthropist, billionaire. A man whose face appeared in financial magazines, not cemeteries. "She saved my husband," Emma continued, voice cracking. "She saved my whole life. I come here because I want her to know she mattered." Adrian stared at her like she was some miracle he hadn't expected to find. "You're the only one, the only person who's honored her every year. Even I," he swallowed hard. "I've failed her." Emma shook her head. That's not true. It is, he said, voice breaking. I've spent 5 years drowning in work, trying to bury the guilt. But you kept her alive more than I ever did. Rain fell harder, but neither of them moved. Emma stepped closer, heart aching for him. You loved her. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. I still do, but I don't know how to live with what came after. A shiver ran through Emma. What came after? She asked softly. Adrian lifted his eyes, full of a truth so heavy it made her chest tighten. Maya died to save your husband. A pause, a breath. But she was running from me. Emma froze. Running from him? Adrian's eyes glistened with something between guilt and devastation. I shouldn't be telling you this, he whispered, voice rough. But you deserve the truth. More than anyone. Emma's heartbeat thudded painfully. Maya left the house the morning she died, he said slowly. We fought. He looked away, jaw trembling. Not in anger, but in crushing regret. She wanted to quit the foundation, he continued. Step away from the business. Step away from everything. She said she was drowning in my world, and I didn't hear her. Emma could almost see it. Maya, full of light, overwhelmed by the weight of a billionaire's empire. What were you arguing about? Adrian
Emma
clenched
asked
his softly.
fists.
She wanted space, time, breathing room, a beat. She told me she wasn't sure she could stay. Emma's breath hitched. She was leaving you? He nodded once, sharp as if the motion itself hurt. She walked out crying. I followed her halfway down the driveway, but she waved me off. I let her go. His voice cracked. 2 hours later, she was gone. Emma covered her mouth, a tear slipping down her cheek. She wasn't running from you, Emma said gently. She was running from overwhelm, from pressure, from the storm inside herself. Not you. Adrian laughed bitterly. You speak like someone who's lived in storms. Emma lowered her gaze. I have. Caleb wasn't the husband magazines imagine. The accident, it didn't change him. It made him worse, angry, distant. He blamed himself for surviving. He looked up sharply. You said he lived because of Maya.
Y asumat? No.
Emma swallowed hard. He survived physically, but our marriage didn't. Adrian studied her with a softness she wasn't prepared for. How long ago? He asked. 2 years since he left, she said quietly. 5 since the crash. I stayed faithful to a ghost, hoping grief would heal him. It didn't. For the first time, she felt exposed. Not just as a widow, but as a woman who'd held on too long. Adrian stepped closer, his voice low. You've been visiting her grave longer than your husband stayed. Emma blinked at him, stunned by the accuracy. I didn't come here for Caleb anymore, she whispered. I came for Maya, for the woman I never got to thank. Adrian exhaled a shaky breath. She would have loved you. Silence settled between them, not awkward, but heavy with connection. Emma finally asked, So, why did you come today? After all this time? Adrian stared at her with an expression that made her chest tighten. Because last night, he said softly, I read the letter she left behind. Emma's pulse stopped. What letter? Adrian stepped closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his breath. She wrote it the morning she died, he whispered. And in it, she mentioned you. Emma's world tilted. And me? Why? Emma stared at Adrian, her breath trapped in her chest. Maya knew Caleb? The words felt foreign, impossible. Adrian nodded slowly, pulling a folded, weather-softened envelope from his jacket. She wrote this the morning she died. His voice broke. I only found the courage to read it last night. Emma couldn't move. He took a steadying breath and continued. In the letter, she wrote about seeing a woman at the hospital weeks earlier. A woman holding a man's hand, whispering, You can survive this. I'll stay. Emma's heart stopped. She saw me, Emma said, voice barely a whisper. Adrian nodded gently. Your husband was in the ICU after a panic attack. She was visiting a friend down the hall. She said, She felt something watching you. Admiration. Respect. She wrote. His voice tightened. That woman loves harder than I ever learned to. Emma covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. Maya wrote that helping Caleb that day reminded her what real loyalty looked like. She said that watching you made her rethink everything in her own life. Emma shook her head, overwhelmed. She shouldn't have been near that crash, Emma whispered. She shouldn't have died for us. She didn't die for him, Adrian said softly. She died because she was running toward a choice she'd just made. Emma looked up, eyes burning. What choice? Adrian stepped closer, as if afraid the truth might break her. She wrote that she finally understood what kind of love she wanted to fight for, that she was coming home, to me, to try again. Emma's knees nearly gave out. So she wasn't leaving you, Emma whispered.
No.
Adrian's voice shook. She was coming back. Silence wrapped around them like fog. And she saved Caleb because she saw you, he finished. She said, if she could protect the kind of love she wanted to rebuild, even in someone else's life, she would. Emma couldn't breathe. All these years, every bouquet, every tear, every apology whispered to the ground. She'd never known Maya left the world choosing love, choosing hope. I don't deserve this peace, Emma whispered. You deserve every piece of truth, Adrian said, gently lifting her chin. Because you kept her memory alive when I couldn't. A long, quiet moment passed between them. Two people standing on the edge of grief and gratitude, connected by a woman who changed them both. What do I do now? Emma whispered. Adrian looked at her with a softness she had never seen in a man's eyes. You live, he said, for her, for yourself. And maybe, he hesitated, maybe not alone. Emma's breath caught. I'm not asking anything of you, Adrian added quickly, but if you ever want company on these visits or coffee, or someone who understands both the love and the loss, he swallowed. I'm here. The rain softened around them, almost like a blessing. Emma reached down, brushing her fingertips over the fresh flowers she'd placed. Thank you, Maya, she whispered. Then she turned to Adrian. Coffee, she said softly. I think she'd want us to choose coffee. His smile was small, fragile, but real. And together, two strangers, bound by a woman who saved lives with both her courage and her heart, they walked away from the grave, not to forget, but to begin.